Good morning. I'm sitting here in Fort Lauderdale, and a friend of mine had suggested that I give maybe an overview of how to plan for an open passage, an open water passage, some distance. And that's what we're planning on doing, is actually sailing down to the Virgin Islands here in a while. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting if anyone's following along on the trip, how you plan something like this. It's a pretty big trip. We're going to be going somewhere around 1,400 miles, open ocean sailing. And as you can see down here, we're got the Virgins, Anegada right here, and Puerto Rico right here. And we're going to be leaving from South Florida, Port Everglades, etc. And there are two philosophies. One is that you come down and you come through the beautiful Bahamian Bank, Turks and Caicos, cross over Dominican Republic, and then sail this way. The only problem is the prevailing winds are coming out of the east and southeast, and this is exactly the way they're going. So your entire trip would be wind on the nose, wind in your face, waves in your face, sailing upwind, which is generally pretty miserable. So there's another competitive idea, which is you sail basically from Florida through the Bahamas and out, and you go way out, almost all the way to Bermuda, round out to the 26th, 25th parallel, and then the 65th parallel, and then you turn south, going from there down, straight down, almost in line with Bermuda. And that's what we're going to do. And the reason is you come over here and you look at the wind scenarios. This is Predict Wind, which is an amazing website, and it's not cheap, but you can put in your boat particulars and parameters and design all kinds of different routes. This is just a wind map, and it shows and puts in real motion what's actually happening over time and what the predictions are. So as you can see, the bar down here, this Saturday morning, now we're into Sunday, you can see there's a low leaving. That's that counterclockwise motion off the east coast. The color is indicative of the wind speed, red being quite fast, up into the 30s, 40 knots, yellows around teens, green in the 10s, and down here in the purple is almost nothing. But you can see, and we'll stop and come back here, you can see right now, this is just this afternoon or this morning, this big low is coming off, and that's what we're feeling in Fort Lauderdale. A lot of wind coming out of the east. It's strong. I'm looking out the window right now. It's probably 20, 25 knots. Winds are bent, or trees are bending. So the idea is, if you wait and hold until you have another cold front coming, you can get on the tail of it, or right on the leading edge of it rather, and ride it out. So as I move the bar here, you can see a cold front starting to build right here, going across, and you can see that wind change is the line of that cold front. There'll be squalls and rain right on the leading edge. But then what would happen is that pushes down into Florida and out into the Bahamas. That wind direction changes from out of the east. You can see it now, it's blowing out of the north, almost even northeast, which is a tremendously great wind angle to get all the way out. The only problem is that our boat only goes 8 knots, and this front is probably moving somewhere around 15 to 20 knots, so it will consume us as we're going out there, and it'll pass by us, and then we'll be in the trailing winds. But we'd benefit from all of that down north to south wind, which would essentially put wind on our side as opposed to on our nose, and we'd be able to get out east as far as possible. The plan then is, once you get out east enough, you then turn and either come downwind, or as these winds turn around, you'd have a beam reach and you come right down into the Virgin Islands. Problem is, we're not ready to go for this one. We still have to get a few things ready on the boat, so we'd have to wait out until into February to get a good run. What's additionally amazing is that you can set it up so not only wind, but you can look at the wave maps. And so it'll take a second to generate, but you can see this is, again, right now what we're looking at. But wave heights down here in the oranges are 15, 16 feet. As you get up into the greens, 9 feet. Up into the blues, 6, 5. And then the purples are almost non-existent, which is pretty nice sailing. We can run the same model, just like this over time. The plan is to avoid all of this stuff. Even sailing into an 11 or 12 foot sea right in here is pretty tough. So you want to try and avoid that. And again, staying north of the 25th parallel is the best. So we run this model, And again, we're sailing from the west to the east. You can see that it tends to die down. And if you can time it right and get into these kinds of 3, even 7 or so feet, is much better than the big waves. It's a lot more tenable. You can see that here's the waves changing, usually a day later, relating to the wind's effect on the sea over time. So that's it in short. Hopefully we'll get down here, and it'll only take about 7 or 8 days, open water sailing, but it'll be pretty weird just being out in all that blue, having this prediction, hopefully run a great model for us. Hopefully we'll see you in the Virgins.